What is a story that you want to tell but can't find the right AskReddit? When I was like 7, I was making a cake. From the other room, I saw my chubby little cat sitting on the couch. I heard some quiet murmur from under her butt, and then a Kesha song started playing. Turns out she sat on my iPod and somehow told Siri to play Kesha. I can never find a question that needs this story as an answer. This is such a random memory to have, and the fact that you actively were waiting for your time to tell it made me laugh. I had a pet chicken that would casually have what seemed to be sexual relationships with pigeons. A squirrel gave me an acorn. Birds have shit on my pizzas twice. That's free ranch, my man. I call it condiment delivery via biological drone. I have an elderly neighbor who lives upstairs. I don't know his name, so I'm going to call him Fred for the sake of this story. Fred is a strange individual. He plays piano at 3 in the morning. He just glares at you if you say something to him. He doesn't speak to anyone really. I've only seen him interacting with a human once, when he was yelling at a salesman. I don't know who Fred is, because he's my only neighbor with an unmarked mailbox. Based on Fred's observable behavior, I would definitely label him as a recluse. About a month ago I got home, pulled into my parking lot, and turned off my car. I heard something that sounded like a gunshot, so I waited in my car for a bit, then finally decided to venture out into the unknown. I saw Fred crouched beside one of my neighbor's cars with something in his hand. I noticed the vehicle's tire had been slashed. As I walked past, I asked Fred if his tire got popped. He just stared at me with an eerie, emotionless glare, the kind of glare that makes you feel like he's looking straight through you. So I promptly started walking towards my door. Before I went inside, I looked back and saw that he had been holding a knife. This past weekend, Fred decided to slash another tire for a reason unbeknownst to me, but this time Fred's tire victim saw it happen and confronted him about it. Fred and the man broke out in a heated argument, and Fred threatened to shoot his victim. The man went inside and immediately called the police. A little bit later the police showed up and knocked on Fred's door. Fred walked out of his door, saw that there were police officers, apparently felt like he was trapped, so he proceeded to quickly pull out a gun and blow his own brains out in front of the police. Holy shit. Yup, for some reason was expecting a wholesome story, not an old man blowing his brains out. My friends and I were skipping our exam and went to the boys' locker room and decided, as females, that my friend was going to pee in the urinal as we chanted, "Do it, do it, do it." This teacher, who was later fired for impregnating a student, walks in and just awkwardly screams sorry and leaves. Did the teachers not have their own bathroom? No, he just walked the duck in for no reason. He knew. For sure. So one day me and my dad were driving home from a car show. We liked going to a while ago, and we were in his Challenger, and on the highway we were going about 90 miles per hour ish, and of course we get pulled over, and the officer asks my dad for his license, and my dad gives it to him, but suddenly I just see a black Lambo looking car duck in zoom by Ann. Then the cop looks at my dad and hands him his license back, and says have a nice night, and duck in zooms after that guy. Tyler 1 sounds intensifies. Gunfire sounds made with mouth. My dad is a firefighter, paramedic, and he teaches CPR and first aid classes. Every time he teaches a CPR/FAR class and gets to the section about choking and the Heimlich maneuver, he tells this story about me. When I was a toddler, for some reason I was very prone to choking on my food. IDK if I ate too fast or what, but it was a constant problem. After the 3rd time that my dad had to hold me upside down and hit my back to unblock my airway, the Heimlich equivalent for babies and toddlers, I had figured out how to do it on my own somehow. I was around 2 years old, maybe less. One time my mom ran back into the kitchen where I had been eating in my high chair cause she heard me choking, and I was hanging upside down from my feet, forcing myself to cough, and I got the piece of hot dog out on my own and just climbed back into the high chair and kept eating like nothing happened. My parents use it to say I was a smart baby, but I disagree. If I was smart I would have been more careful eating my food. Laughing emoji. Choke artist. That's what they called me in middle school. Is that why you can't be within 500 feet of a school? I work at a lumber outlet. My second day on the job, my boss calls me over to introduce me to someone. At first, I thought it was a new employee, so I said welcome to the team. Then I realized my mistake. We laughed and started chatting. This man started telling us about different cultures and how most people would consider LA to be overcrowded, but have never been to India, so their frame of reference is skewed. Then he started talking about eating crickets for protein and how he hates the beef industry. Then he took off in his Tesla, which had a towing hitch attached to it. I mentioned to my boss how cool it was to see a Tesla with a towing ball on it, and he said, "Do you realize who that was?" I said no, and he proceeded to tell me that this guy was Brian Thompson, a man who acted in movies with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and most importantly to me, played Buffalo Bill and Joe Dirt. It was the happiest day of my life. An accomplished actor came to our humble lumber yard, and I mistook him for a new employee. I know him as the scary clone assassin guy from X-Files. My cousin used to play in the NFL. One game, he gave us family passes so we could meet up with him in the players/family tent after the game. Watched the game, went down there, and I had to pee. I remember I had passed a security guard when we arrived in the area and went back to that spot to see if they could tell me where a bathroom was, because I couldn't find anyone else that worked there. The security guard was nowhere to be found, and I really had to pee. So I followed a long hallway back, and the only thing at the end of the hallway was a set of giant double doors. I opened one and started walking into the locker room. Looked up, saw some of the players changing, one or two in towels, and definitely a couple with everything hanging out. I'm just this little 5 feet 2 inch female that wasn't even wearing a jersey from their team. I had a Pro Bowl jersey on of a player from a different team, and I walked right on into an NFL locker room like it was my business to be in there, and then I walked right on out. Never told my cousin, and never told anyone in my family. Was definitely super embarrassed at the time. Now it's just funny. I have questions, inappropriate questions. I have answers, completely irrelevant answers. Crying makes me so uncomfortable. Doesn't matter who it is, family, friend, or stranger. Most people's response is to console the crier, but I just want to leave. I feel like an asshole, but I can't help it. Me too. I was in tech crew my sophomore year of high school and was waiting in the back when a girl in my year came into the room crying. She thought she did a bad job on stage because she messed up a little part and just burst into tears later. I felt so awkward in that room. So I just went, "So I'm just gonna go," and inched my way out of the door as another girl hugged and comforted her. Edit, Grandma. One day I was at school and walked into a bathroom. I'm a middle schooler, but we use the same bathrooms as the elementary kids. I walk in and see this little kid peeing inside a cone. He had the cone upside down, so the tip was on the toilet and the bottom he stuck his pages in. I walked in, and he had the nerves to say, "Sup dude," so I responded with a sup. It was so hard not to burst of laughter. This story reminds me of those kids in elementary school that would pull their pants all the way down to pee while using the urinal. Kids, I've walked into public toilets and seen grown men who still do this. It's a massive power move. There is a 50-year-old dude where I work that does this. Also wears the same clothes for a week, even when he was working full-time at another place outside during the day. In Florida, over the summer, couldn't get within 20 feet without smelling him. He would fall asleep in the middle of ringing up people or doing something. Home was too far away, so he just slept in his car in between jobs. Yes, he still works where I do. I called a person with the same name as me, say Emily, not my real name. Our conversation went, "Hello, this is Emily." Me, "Yes." Very long pause. What? Me, "Oh sorry, hello, my name is Emily too." And then I died inside. Not so much a story, but an admission. Over the past 4+ months, I've become a severe alcoholic. Every time I have a panicked feeling, or there's a problem, my mind goes to a bottle of White Zinfandel. I'm drunk right now. I'll admit my problem to people, but not the full extent of it. How I hate the feeling of being sober. I'm sorry. Found a budger in my chest hair. It wasn't a budger, it was a larvae.